Hello everyone, I'm Day Weather Meteorologist Don Day with your weekly weather update, your Public Lands Council weekly update being brought to you today by WSR Insurance Services Incorporated and Ag Risk Advisors. Taking a look at what's coming over the next week, well, we've seen quite a bit over the last week. We had snow in the northern Rockies to start off the week. Then we saw temperatures warm up. Then we saw a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity in the region, returning to some areas that really needed it. Of course, we did have some severe weather over this past week with big hail and tornadoes and heavy winds across parts of Wyoming and Nebraska and Colorado and the Dakotas. We're going to be looking at the heat now shifting into the west. You've all probably been hearing on the news about how hot it's going to be and will be in the east. Well, over the next week, some of that heat will shift to the western side of the U.S. while the eastern side of the U.S. cools off. We are finally seeing some moisture come into the southern Rockies. In the past few days, we finally got some rain into Arizona, parts of southern Colorado, the Four Corners region, southeast Utah, and New Mexico, and parts of southwest Texas. Those areas are in store to get more precipitation as Gulf of Mexico moisture has finally worked its way out of the Gulf, worked westward into Mexico, and is now moving into the southwest United States. So that's going to lead to some better chances for showers and thunderstorms. Elsewhere, we're going to have showers and thunderstorms, but they're going to be kind of spotty. The concentration of the heaviest rain, as we'll show you in a minute, will be over the northern plains and parts of the far southwest and east areas of the U.S. Over the last week, the northern plains continue to be very wet. From Montana through the Dakotas, in this area right here, this area has been persistently the most active with precipitation. We continue to have drier than average conditions here. Now we've had some thunderstorms that have helped out, but this is a dry area that will show you that keeps on growing. And west of the divide, there really hasn't been much, but that'll be changing when we take a look at what's coming on up, partly due to this moisture that's in the Gulf of Mexico that's headed westbound and then will curve northward, as you'll see here in a moment. Over the last week, the coldest weather's been in the west, the warmest weather in the east. But we're going to see this flip. The colder weather will go over here, the warmer weather will go over here over the next 7 days. The latest drought monitor shows that area we talked about growing. Eastern Wyoming, western areas of South Dakota, far eastern Montana. This area just cannot catch a break and get some good soaking spring, early summer rains. We continue to see this dryness here. However, all that area I just highlighted has been able to pick up some rain here recently, and more is on the way. Starting to see some dry areas develop in parts of the Corn Belt. But this area here is certainly a concern in the weeks ahead. When we take a look at the forecast, by next week, this is by next Wednesday, we have that high pressure shifting into the west. This is why the east will get cold. Colder Canadian air comes in, while heat from the deserts come back into the Rockies and high plains. However, in addition to the heat, if you notice these wind barbs, the winds aloft actually go from the east to the west, then curve around this way. So that will bring surges of subtropical moisture into the west, leading to some shower and thunderstorm activity on an off and on basis. And we see that by the middle of next week. You see the blue and the purple and the green here? This is much above average amounts of water vapor in the air. And if that comes in the middle to the end of next week, everywhere you see the green and the blue, there's going to be some opportunities for some good rain-producing showers and thunderstorms. But with that will come some very warm temperatures. And you can see over the next 7 days, continued wet in the northern plains and the northwest Corn Belt into the Great Lakes. See this moisture here out of Mexico? It's going to finally get into Arizona, the Four Corners area, and New Mexico. You're going to finally get some rain here. Underneath the high pressure ridge, it's going to be dry in Oklahoma and Texas, at least central and eastern areas of Texas and Oklahoma. But one thing you'll tend to see around the high pressure ridge this time of year is what we call the ring of fire, where the heavier showers and thunderstorms are around the edge of the high. Underneath the high, it tends to be hotter and drier right there. Then that will continue off to the east. The Great Basin states in the Pacific Northwest over the next week, pretty dry. Temperature-wise, this is what we talked about. The heat, the very warm weather shifting into the west, cooler weather conditions develop in the eastern side, which is basically a 180 from what we've seen here over the last 7 days. Our next update will be the 29th. Have a good week ahead.